Okay, so here's the vermicomposting bins here at the Kerr Center. Like I was saying in the presentation, we use red wigglers. Icenia fetidia is the Latin name. These are the species of worms best adapted to vermicomposting. And the reason is that these are litter dwellers. So for example, if you imagine in a forest ecosystem, these would be the type of worms that would live in the leaf litter on the forest floor, decomposing that organic matter or eating that organic matter right there at the soil surface. So in this worm bin system, they like to live at the surface of the bedding, and they like to eat the food that you deposit on the surface or shallowly into the bedding. So, as opposed to, for example, night crawlers that can burrow deep into the soil, and they're kind of the Earth's biological tillers. These are the organic matter decomposers, if you think about it that way. So usually, you have to special order these. We got these from Uncle Jim's Worm Farm, an online retailer, but there are a lot of companies that sell these composting worms. But you can see in my hand, see the dark, rich material? This is the worm castings, the vermicast. And you can tell that it's vermicast because of the little aggregates. You can almost see it's almost like small soil beads kind of glued together. And if you come closely, you can see, it's really crumbly. And yeah, it's those aggregates. You can tell those are the worm castings. So that's what you're looking for. I mean, that's the end product in this kind of system. I mean, this is a system managed to produce worm castings, where, the worms, they do, reproduce, multiply in number, but the system is managed to maximize the vermicompost or the worm casting output. And so how this specific bin is maintained is, you can see this would be considered the bedding material, which has been, converted to worm castings. Food is added to the top of that. You can see old dinner rolls, and then, other material here. Cardboard and newspaper is added to the top. This carbonaceous material, the cardboard and the newspaper, it acts as a bedding. It balances out the food source. It's kind of like looking at, browns and greens. In a compost pile you have browns and greens, and vermicomposting you have bedding and food. So the cardboard and the newspaper would be considered more of a bedding. But also, that being layered on top, it preserves moisture in the worm bin, and also it preserves a dark environment which the worms thrive in. Then, yeah, Jonathan, do you want to talk about that screen you had on top of this bin and why you made that?
We thought that maybe we would have a fly problem this summer, so we just got some aluminum fly screen material at the hardware store, and this wood is furring strips used for drywall construction. It's really lightweight. Unfortunately, it doesn't handle the nails very good, and so I had to glue it together pretty good. And but it's holding in there, and we hope that it's keeping flies out of the compost bin, or the worm bin.
Yeah, and one common problem in worm bins is black soldier fly larvae. So yeah, Jonathan was talking about keeping flies out. So that
they're already in there.
Yeah, that would help keep out the black soldier flies, which lay larvae. They really like worm bins. I mean, especially if your worm bin is really wet, kind of anaerobic. Black soldier fly larvae can proliferate. I'm seeing if I can find one. I saw one just a second ago. but worms really do thrive in an aerobic environment. Though the moisture requirement is much higher than in composting, you're looking at like a 70% moisture content in the bedding as opposed to about 60% in the compost. I mean, it should feel wetter than a compost pile. But it's important to keep the worm bin system aerobic so that there's enough, well, there are pores in the bedding. The bedding is light enough to allow airflow, water flow through the worm bin. And adding the bedding materials like cardboard, like newspaper, helps maintain that aerobic environment. Let's see if there's anything else I want to say about this. So another thing, I get asked a lot about, you know, how often your worm populations will multiply. You know, how fast will the worm population grow? And with these red wigglers, the population will double in 60 to 90 days. So every 60 to 90 days, your population is going to increase twofold. So you're dealing with an exponential increase in population over time. And
how
so
long,
that's...
How long do the adults live?
I think it was 3 years, if I'm remembering correctly. That I can't remember that off the top of my head. But they're actually hermaphrodites, and so, you know, they swing both ways, I guess. And I wanted to show you a cocoon or egg here. If you guys can get up close. So after they mate, they lay what's called a cocoon. This little, kind of like a little golden egg here, from which like 2 to 3 baby worms will emerge. And so, you know, if you're digging through your pile and you're seeing a lot of these cocoons, that's a good sign. You know, it's showing that conditions are favorable, that the worms are reproducing, and the aerobic and the moisture content is important to encouraging the worm reproduction.